What's up, everybody? I'm Thomas J. Bellezza, and welcome to another lesson of The Right Mindset. Today, we are going to go over the rule of three in writing. Some things you will talk about is writing has a rule of three to it, thus the title of the lesson. Today's lesson will explore a few variations of the rule of three, how to use three beats in each act, chapter, or scene, the power of repeating something of note three times, and the stages of a character, their start, growth, and change. Let's hit that intro. Okay. Music gets me every time. Yeah, that's right. Today's lessons is going to go over the rule of three in writing. Before we do that, though, I gotta pay the bills. So if you're a beginner or advanced writer, author, or screenwriter, click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out. Also, if this is your first time watching any video, just so you understand, the channel itself, The Right Mindset, goes over lessons about the craft, analyzing and reviewing storytelling, and of course, interviews with fellow writers. Okay. What is the rule of thrace? I don't know. Let's find out. The rule of three is a powerful technique or principle required for writing or speaking. It states that any ideas, thoughts, events, characters, or sentences that are presented in threes are more effective and memorable. The human brain processes information issuing patterns. That's why in my self-help book and other self-help books and in lessons, usually they repeat the same phrasing or words over and over again. It's important. So sort of in the self-help book, I talk about networking, marketing, and practicing, and I always do that in the same order. You got three needs of success is network, market, and practice, right? So I'll say that often. And what is networking? It's building and cultivating relationships to establish a strong circle of influence. So I say that a lot. Networking is, right? Okay. Helps you remember and recall through mantras, phrasing, etc., etc. But three needs of success is network, market, practice. So it's the rule of three. We could remember in little bits quicker. Okay. Three is the smallest number of elements required to create a pattern. Being brief and having a pattern make content more memorable. Blood, sweat, and tears. Right. I don't know if you okay. Cool, calm, and collected. Have you heard that one? Past, present, future. But the rule of three can be used in an abstract way as well. You can place effort into presenting things in groups of threes, either over the course of something or direct in succession. Meaning, you don't necessarily have to do three in a row, right? And like for example, past, present, and future. You can spread it out and repeat things. All right. Let's talk about something, though, in a writer's mindset when it comes to three main beats. The rule of three looks at the three main beats in a collection of moments, a single moment, and within a character. Those three main beats are going to be the beginning, middle, and the end. Where it starts has a value, what happens to change where it began, and how it has after that change. So let me repeat that. If you can showcase the true value of someone's beginning, the change that begins, and then how they are affected by that change, you're utilizing the rule of three. In a sense, that can work with a character, that could work with a scene, that could work with an act, that could work with your full story. Okay? So what does this all mean? If I simplify it, we began one way, go through some crazy stuff, or happy stuff, and it changes us at the end. With that said, there is a lot of stuff going that can benefit from the rule of three. A lot of elements can benefit from the rule of three. For example, there are traditionally three acts in a story. But even if you go for the 4, 6, or 9 acts in a story, you can still utilize the rule of thrace. Each act should have 3 major beats throughout: the beginning, middle, and end. Where an act begins, it will set the tone of that act. This is going to create the questions, the promises, and positions, philosophically or physically, of the situation. Philosophically, brings up the questions of whatever the story's themes are, etc. Physically is what lies ahead of them in their tasks. We need to get XYZ to win, or I have to do this to prove my worth for the relationship. Think of each act as a way to showcase certain things. The beginning first beat should always set up the story or the narrative. What are the stakes, the world as it is due to the past leading to this moment? What are the rules? What is the world and the people involved in that world? What are they capable of? Not that we see them being capable, but what are they capable of? Meaning, what can they aspire to, or what's their expertise? The middle challenges those ideas. The stakes are pushed to their limits. The world is changed from some form of conflict, internal or external. Established rules should be pushed or altered, and whatever the world and people are capable of, it is now shown. We see them being capable. The end takes it to another level. The stakes that have been pushed are now forced to find a solution that will bring back some variation of a status quo. The changed world is where they are and can't turn back as they have solved the conflict. Rules have officially changed and situations are different now. And, of course, the world and the people are able to show their mastery of what they are capable of. Now, if we looked at the acts that way, what if we looked at a single moment? A single moment will take on the same elements as an act. A scene has a beginning, a middle, and an end. A strong scene needs to begin with established elements that are pushed through a conflict in the second beat until there is resolve in the third beat. Once those 3 beats have been hit, the next scene begins and the cycle starts over. Think of it this way. You don't want one scene to begin at the end or start in the middle, right? Yes, you can start a scene in the middle, and what that means is, I'll tell you. Starting a scene in the middle usually represents, let's get to the conflict. So if I walk into a house and I have friends there, we don't need to start at me walking in the house to greet my friends. We could start with me in the house with my friends in mid-conversation or in the middle of doing something. So when they say start in the middle, that's what they mean. They mean, like, instead of going, all right, I pull up in the driveway, I get out of my car, I text them, hey, I'm here. I get to the door, hey, what's up, bro? Blah, 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 I go in. That's not technically the beginning of the scene. It's right. Like, you don't want to start there. You want to start in the middle when the scene's kind of like in motion. Anyway, but the beginning of that scene still needs to set up the situation. So even if you start in the middle, like let's say we get rid of me getting out of the car, showing up, what's up, bro, and we're in, there's still a beginning to that scene. We have to establish the environment. Who's there? I'm there, 2 other friends. One is playing a video game. One is cooking. That's the establishment of the setup. Why am I there? That might be established. Okay, so that's what means starting in the, okay. But the situation needs to be challenged, and when all is said and done, the challenge does need to be resolved by the end of that scene. The resolve just means that we can move on to the next situation that has to take its course, okay? But now that the resolve doesn't mean the solution has to end, but leads to the next step. So, for example, if I am to simplify that, if we set up a scene, I'm there, there's a friend playing a game, a friend cooking, and I'm there, and my goal is that I need my friend who's cooking to go with me on a date as my wingman. Okay? That's the beginning of the scene. All right? And I might establish that by walking in. The friend might say, yo, did you ever hear back from that girl that you met at the bar? Which might have happened in like a scene or two before. And I go, you know what? She did call up, but she wants to bring a friend. So now comes the conflict. I need someone to go with me. Can you go? Do they say yes? Do they say no? If they say yes, how do we create tension or conflict to that? Well, we say, have you met? Have you met the friend? No, I haven't met the friend. All right. Do you know anything about the friend? I know that they went to college together and they were in the same sorority. Oh my God, a sorority girl. That's what the friend says. This is, I mean, I'll go because we're bros or whatever, but you're going to owe me. I don't want anything to do with this, but I will go. And that's the resolution. Okay. But just because there is a resolution, now we got to go to the date. And now that sets up a new situation. So the resolution in a scene doesn't necessarily mean that the whole thing is resolved. It just means we are able to move on to the next step. I'm going to use World War Z, the opening scene, as an example of setup, conflict, resolve for one scene. Okay? Spoiler alert. If you've seen this movie, I'm going to walk you through it. Okay? The setup of World War Z, the opening scene, okay? Minus anything like the intro or whatever. This is when we first see Brad Pitt with his family, okay? So the setup of the scene is Brad Pitt with his family in bed, happy and showing that they are in love. They're a good family. They're close. The news is playing on the TV in the background. Very tropey. The kid wants a puppy for their birthday. Very normal family. News is playing in the background. Some crazy stuff is on the TV. The conflict. Brad Pitt pays attention to the news, and the child asks him what martial law is, as per the TV, and he explains it and says, like at your old job. That's what the kid says. We're learning something. That's the conflict is like, yeah, I had that old job, right? The conflict's being created on the TV. 3, why did you quit your old job is really the question. So the resolve is he quit his old job so he could be with his family. She asks if he missed it, and he says he loves his new job. So what does that scene do? We set up his home life, then move to the conflict in which something is going on both in the world and that Brad Pitt is being challenged on his choice to be a father and close to his kids. The resolve is that he loves them. He loves being there for them. So despite having to quit his old job, he loves his family more than that, though the TV is pulling him because it's his old job and he's interested in it. It's going to pull him, right? This is a very simple situation, a scene, but at the same time, the scene works because of what it establishes in those 3 beats. The scene is about a minute long, too. Okay. Anyway, remember that characters, all right, they are the driving force of a narrative, and as they react to what's happening and they give us, the reader, a chance to experience the story through the choices a character makes. Now, remember, story is how things unfold. Plot is what needs to happen. Narrative is the combined of those 2 things. This is why a character can be in or push readers to enjoy, right? So this is why a character can be the character themselves can pull the reader in or push the reader to enjoy the story. The way we create an in is by showing an arc to their personal experience within the narrative. Example, the beginning. A character is drafted for the Second World War. They believe in it. They want to be there, and they fight for their country. The middle of that story is they go through some form of hell, watch their whole platoon get killed. They are lone survivors. Ending, they make it back home, but in their mind, they are not able to experience the world like they did before. So those are the 3 main beats, right? We're seeing the before, the during, and the after. And they evolve and they change, and things are horrible sometimes. And you could do that with scenes. You could do that with character. And you could do that with your full story. Let's go on to another element, which is repeat that, please. Repeat that, please. If something is important, you want to repeat it 3 times. Do you have to repeat it 3 times in a row? No, but you can. A strong example of repeating something is bringing it up 3 times in a narrative. You can do that in 3 different perspectives, experiences, or a clear repeat to remind a reader. By the way, repeating something also brings to light information. If you've ever read a book or watched a movie and, in the beginning something happens, but then right before the midpoint, they reiterate that thing that happened, like a kid or like a character's bought their motorcycle in the beginning and crashed it. Like their ordinary world is that they always wanted a motorcycle and they don't know how to drive one, and it's proven that they can't drive one. And then the midpoint is they got to escape, and the only vehicles there is a motorcycle. And someone's like, "Hey, remember when you crashed that thing? You don't know how to drive that. Why don't you get on the back of my car? I ain't riding, bitch." Right? And then so they remind you of the thing. But anyway, that's a repeat. Some examples of repeating is Yoda. Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Should I do it in the voice? I'll do it. Fear is path to the dark. It's terrible. Terrible.
I could do it in Gollum. Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.
All right. This repeats points of the previous sentence to give weight. So the repeat is, fear is the path to the dark side. Fear, repeated, leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. If you mention a magical sword in the beginning of the story, mention it again before it's found. And finally, someone recognizes the sword, giving it weight in the narrative. So that's the 3. So, hey, there's a magic sword. Blah, 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 blah. You got to get it. All right. Oh, hey, we need to figure out a way to beat this. What about the blah, 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 sword? Oh, we can't get that. We're going to have to. And then they go to find it, and they realize the antagonist has it, and someone goes, "Hey, that's the sword." Blah, blah, blah. There you go. All right. So repeat that, please, can also be found in growing strength. So 3 little pigs. So what I mean is each repeat can grow in strength and power. 3 little pigs tell us we have a straw house, a stick house, and finally a brick house. What? It's a brick house. Okay. Think of your story like that. If you have a massive hero versus villain saga, create 3 phases of strength experiences. The first one is where we see the villain attack the hero untrained. Second is the hero is trained but doesn't have the tools to do it. Third is the hero has the tools to make it happen and does. You could do that in 1 story, or you could do that over 3 stories. Luke is untrained and sees the villain. In the second one, he is somewhat trained but doesn't have all the tools. And in the third one, he not only has the tools, but he understands the practice of being a Jedi and decides to self-sacrifice. Okay. Character and stages of 3, right? If we look at characters and stages, we can see them grow over the course of a story or stories. Going back to Star Wars, Luke in episode 4 is a farm boy and knows almost nothing about the Force, but doesn't have what it takes to fight physically. Luke in episode 5 has a better grasp on the Force, but he allows his fear and love to push him into something he's not ready for. Luke in episode 6 comes in with a clear understanding of the Force to a point where he realizes it's not about fighting. So that's basically what I said. Okay. If we look at Luke in episode 4, just in general, he's a farm boy who doesn't know the world. Then he's introduced to a thing called the Force. Obi-Wan kind of plays with it with Anna. Hey, try this, block the ball, use the lightsaber. Hey, kid, anyone could do that. I'd rather believe in a blaster, right? Whatever. By the 3rd act, Luke, as a character arc, trusts in the Force, even though he doesn't understand it fully, and he blows up the Death Star. So those are more about Luke's story. Luke is naive. He learns a little bit about it, but he doesn't really embrace it. By the end, he embraces it. And he wins. All right. If we're looking at a character through the evolution of the story, you can bring them in through stages till they are capable. Let's look at Macbeth. Let's look at Macbeth. That's not even Scottish. Scottish broke. If it's not broke, don't fix it. All right. Macbeth. That's terrible. That's terrible. I gotta work on my Scottish. Macbeth begins the story as a good man with qualities of honor. It's terrible. It's terrible. I'm gonna stop it. I want to do it, but I'm gonna stop it. Macbeth begins the story as a good man with qualities of honor. Those qualities are challenged, and he begins to fade into darker tones. Evil. By the end of the story, he is a murderer. Murderer! And is not the person he began the story with. There you go. I almost went into the Princess Bride thing. I just want you to know that. Okay, final thoughts. There is a truth to the joke relevance of the rule of three. I can't think of anything worse after a night of drinking than waking up next to someone and not being able to remember their name or how you met or why they're dead. Laura Nightlinger. Very good joke. But that's the rule of three being played out. I can't think of anything worse after a night of drinking than waking up next to someone and not being able to remember their name, how you met, and why they're dead. Okay. But it's not just here for humor. It's here for building suspense, accentuating importance, and showing the development of growth. Liquid. Try to find ways to elevate your stories with the power of the rule of three and let your stories grow from there. I've always liked the rule of three in dialogue. For example, I am not going to stand here and take our situation lightly, ignore the reality of it all, and listen to these fools. Whatever it is you do to bring weight to your stories, characters, and scenes, let yourself know that you can play around with it. Rules are only here to be broken once we understand their methods. Real quick, that thing I said, I am not going to stand here and take our situation lightly, ignore the reality of it all, and listen to these fools is the rule of three, and really emphasizing the importance of it. Hey, by the way, next video in the series, we'll focus on when imagery becomes purple prose. We'll go over what a purple prose is, how it can affect the reading experience, and when and where imaginary, everything's imagery becomes a purple prose. Hey, I got a question for you. No question this week. Instead, tell me a funny joke in the comments using the rule of three. So, no question. Just tell me a funny joke in the comments using the rule of three. Let me know in the comments below because I want to see. I want to laugh. All right. If you like what you're watching and you're really enjoying what we've done so far, please like and subscribe, comment, share the video, hit the bell icon so you don't miss out, etc., etc. All right. There it is. As always, keep developing the right mindset. I'll see you next time. Love you all. Thank you so much. Oh, it's nap time.